Welcome to the Scale Model Podcast. In this podcast, we aim to entertain, inform, and promote the hobby of scale model kit building with interviews, reviews, and news about the hobby. The Scale Model Podcast is recorded roughly bi-weekly and is available where your favorite podcasts are found, including iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher, as well as on our website at scalemodelpodcast.com. Let us know if you have any comments or suggestions via email at scalemodelpodcast@gmail.com or on Facebook at facebook.com/scalemodelpodcast. We do publish extra video content on the YouTube channel, and there's also a Patreon page at patreon.com/scalemodelpodcast. The money raised will be used to help offset web hosting and other costs for the show. We also want to give a special shout out to our latest Patreon supporter, Gordon Sorensen. Gordon, thank you very much for supporting the podcast. And as I say, if anyone else wishes to do that, please do so at patreon.com/Scale Model Podcast. So, welcome to episode 23, sponsored by Goodman Models. My name is Stuart Clark, and I am here with my regular co-host, the man, the myth, and now apparently the newly minted president of AMP's Southwestern Ontario chapter.
El Presidente,
Mr. Anthony Goodman. How are you, sir?
I'm great. How are you doing, Stu?
Not bad. So, of course, the first question everyone wants to know is, did you draw the short straw?
Oh, I think it's just a turn. You know, You got to pay your dues.
That's right. Yeah, no, we all joke about that.
The Scott, who we're going to be interviewing later, he did it for many years, and then the legendary Don Van Dusen did it for a bit, but just is quite busy. So I'm happy to help out and throw in and get the club organized.
Awesome stuff. Yeah, no, we're looking forward to hearing more because, as you know, as we've previously described, AMPS is a very large organization, similar to IPMS, some slightly different ways of judging, but again, always some amazing stuff coming from the organization. Okay, so as you alluded to, we do have an interview a little bit later on with Scott Taylor, who's Kim Taylor, who we interviewed last podcast's spouse. So we're going to call this episode a tale of two Taylors. Yes, hold your applause. Hold your applause, please, folks. Okay, we're going to get right into the news. So, kicking things off, some new items from Ammo for June. They've got a couple new publications, weathering products, some paint applicators, all sorts of goodies. So let's start off with some of the publications, let's start off with some of the products first. Yeah. So they have a basic color set for figures for their acrylic. Their line basically designed for brush painting and that. So your basic primary colors plus, white, cyan, green, black, pure red, pure yellow. Good basic colors. You could basically blend at this point. So they show a little animated character there on the box. So
like a gnome.
A little gnome. Yeah, I mean, you know what? I was trying to think of the name, and it just was like, what's that name?
A garden gnome.
A garden gnome, exactly. Exactly. So the show.
I wonder, though, are you supposed to be able to... So you've got this fully painted up gnome figure with flesh tones and a beard and wearing like a blue cloak and a red hat. Yeah. Are you supposed to be able to whip up flesh tones from the colors they presented?
You can blend, dude.
Yeah.
Blending, my boy. Blending. Actually, on the back of the box, they show some examples of how they blend it.
Yeah. And that would be key. That's good stuff to learn, right?
Exactly.
To know how the colors work.
Yep, exactly. So that's, a good basic simple guide they're doing with there. Then we're going to move on to one of their fine books. And this one is an association with our good friends at Model Art, which we interviewed a couple of shows ago. This is How to Make Buildings, Basic Construction and Building Guides. So 160 pages, 900 high-quality images, both available in English and Spanish. Going to be roughly 24.5 euros from the MIG store.
It's pretty. That looks spectacular.
Yeah, I know
some of the samples.
I know a few members of the club, of our local club, that might be interested in this. For how to, I'm always fascinated once I start building more of my 135th German armor. I always like seeing some of the dioramas and that. So again, as usual, very good instructions, very well illustrated. Obviously, they're going to show MIG products, but it can be applied to any manufacturer's products. Pretty good. Like I said, quite a quite a lot of preview. Our friends at the modelingnews.com managed to get an advanced copy, so they've shown quite a few pictures there. So you can see what works there. Next thing is they're calling it arming putty. It's an acrylic putty. Seems like a lot of manufacturers are putting out putty lately.
Yeah.
So again, this is an acrylic one, €3.75. Diluted or clean with water, very easy to apply. So again, the other acrylic stuff I know is the Vallejo. And then there's the Magic type putty, which I did get a bottle of recently, but I haven't had a chance to try yet.
Yeah, I just bought that Vallejo plastic putty at the last show we attended.
Yep,
it's pretty interesting. I have tried it a little bit.
Okay,
I gotta test it a bit more.
Yeah, now, did you remember I told you about it might shrink a bit? That's the one thing I noticed about it. People say,
oh really?
Yeah, you put it on and sometimes it will shrink slightly.
Okay, I didn't notice that per se, but I want to know if there's a good way to thin it.
Oh, it's an acrylic, so you'd think,
Yeah, it says it's water-based, but that's what I got to practice on or experiment on like a sample piece of plastic, not on my kit. But
yeah, you'll have to Google it.
Worked fine straight on my kit on a couple scenes.
I've used it for certain things. It's not bad. I have a little bottle, and like that, their paint comes in that. So yeah, check it out. So again, if you have an enamel dealer near you, you can pick some of this up with a nice acrylic putty.
That's cool.
Next up is they're calling it a sniper brush collection set. This is a multi-purpose tool. It's got 4 different types of what they call sniper brushes. They're basically little micro brushes. Now, I'm looking at this, and this reminds me of other brushes from other manufacturers. Like I think there's probably a factory in China that makes these, and then various other people rebrand them. Yeah. Now it looks like they come in. There's 4 types, and it looks like 3 of the types have 2 different sizes. Just looking at it. I've got a good
variety.
Yeah. So again, if you're in some place you can't get these before, these are very useful tools. Like I have used them. They're very, very handy. I know where did I pick? Not the last show, but at our Alpha Abrasives had some.
Yeah. They carry something like that. It has a very tiny tip with a little bit of a
different
brush,
types of brushes and different shapes and stuff like that. So again, there's some kind of cool things, and they give a description on how you can use it to clean your airbrush and stuff like that. So again, a very good tool. I've seen it elsewhere. It's not revolutionary, but obviously they feel there's a demand. There's places in the world. It's convenient, and again, they're trying to do the whole thing. Moving on. So this is the World War II Luftwaffe Late Fighter Solutions book. This is the book that also came out if you bought the whole solution set that had all the weathering. So for those people that think, okay, I've already got half the products, I don't need that, but I want the book, now you can get the book separately.
That's cool. It looks amazing.
Yeah, so they give an example of weathering up an F-190D9. So the whole procedure from priming to painting, again, they are using MIG products, so they show some of the products. And again, if you wanted to get the whole set, you could buy the whole solution box set. But again, for those modelers that maybe already have half of this stuff, it's a nice way to get in without having to buy duplicate product.
Yeah, and sometimes you have it from a different manufacturer, but you have the equivalent product. But seeing kind of how to use it, how you can use it, this is an awesome reference.
Yeah, and again, beautifully illustrated. And that's, we've talked about it before. That's how and we're going to talk about it a little bit with our interview with Scott. This is how the publishers are staying relevant in the age of the internet. They're doing high quality content. Okay, moving on. I love how they brand some of these. This is the First Aid Basic washes. So a set of 5 high quality washes, 30 ml bottles, €18. And these are basically the basic wash colors to get started.
This is what I want.
Yeah. So track wash, a light rust wash, dark wash, streaking. I think they meant streaking grime.
Streaking grime.
And Kursk soil, because you can't just have normal soil. You have to have soil from Kursk.
So Kursk soil would be like a lighter.
It's a lighter Russian.
Lighter tone.
Yeah, I think it'd be like a lighter Russian one. So so those are the washes, and then they also have a basic pigment set in First Aid, in their First Aid line. So you get Europe Earth, Dark Earth, Truck Rust, Gunmetal, and Rubble. So these are all the pigment powders. Yeah, I know I don't have the MiG. I have the other company.
Vallejo or
I have some Vallejo, and I mostly have
Wilder?
the Vallejo and the Wilder. Yeah, I think it's Vallejo mostly. I have. See, I'm drawing blanks tonight. I need to be drinking more coffee, and the pigments are quite fun too. Again, two different techniques, and they produce very different results. So both are quite good. But yeah, for someone, let's say, getting started. Definitely a good way to get
these are great
to get into it. Yeah. So
because I was when these products were just coming out a couple years ago or becoming more sort of prevalent in the marketplace, I didn't know where to start. Now I've already assembled a bunch of them.
Yep.
But it'd be nice to have something that kind of covers, light, medium, dark, and these sets have that. So I might even grab one of these.
Exactly.
These are
it's
awesome.
a nice way to, again, it gets people into it. If you're a little bit not sure, as you say, you're not sure where to start and stuff like that. So
yeah, it's nice to have a kind of a basic set.
Very good. Yeah.
Get
exactly.
into it.
Okay, moving on. As pretty well everyone knows who listens to this podcast on a regular basis, I'm an Airfix fanboy. They have released the big Hellcat, the 124th. Very eagerly reduced. This is a monster kit. So I know it wasn't supposed to be released until like the 20th or the 21st, but I know some stores were having it out early, so I don't know if they're going to get their hands slapped or not.
Are you gonna?
No,
are you gonna dip into this?
I'd love it, but like I say, with the Mosquito and stuff like that, I just don't have the room. But it's a gorgeous looking kit. I can definitely see, 600 parts. You can build it with the wings opened or closed. Just absolutely gorgeous. That's been released. So I just thought I'd throw a link there, including the link with the video about the design.
Do we have do we have a price for the listeners?
Oh, it's
up there.
It's up there. It's all over the place. To be honest, I haven't looked lately. Let me have a quick look at the Airfix store, and I'll see. And I know your mileage may vary. Let's just have a look here. New arrivals shop. Come here. Here we go.
I've got something for you.
What do you got? You got
on Hobbyland Japan. They've got a listing for this, the 124 Grumman Hellcat.
Yep.
June release. $223.59 Canadian.
That's not bad. So it's 119 pound in the UK. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So But again, it's a big kit. It's a.
Yeah, and you get a lot of features too. I mean, you can basically it's the entire plane, the inside and out.
Yeah, a lot of interior stuff. Again, we've talked about it before, but I just wanted to point out because I know some of our listeners would be definitely interested if they hadn't already heard. Because I know Airfix has been.
Yeah, this is a big
the
deal.
Marketing
because,
machines.
You don't get a lot of 124 scale planes either, right?
Not a lot. It's mostly Airfix does a lot of the ones. They've done their Mosquito. They recently did their Typhoon, 2 different types there, and again, fairly positive results. So and again, in a lot of cases, it's the only game in town. And I know when they announced this last year at Scale Model World, it was a little bit of a surprise. People weren't expecting it, and I know we talked about it because we basically said, well, people were thinking, well, why not this or why not this? Well, they know there's a big market for U.S. Navy World War II stuff, both in the U.S.
iconic fighter, right?
And in Japan. There's a big market. We talk about the Far East and sales wise and that. So, fairly smart, I think, on Airfix's part. They've done quite a few of the other big British stuff. They've done the Mosquito, they've done the Hurricane. The Hurricane, I would love to see an updated release of that. That one and the Spitfire, they're very old molds. They're not bad, but they could definitely be improved. But I think they decided, there's some market there. And based on what I've been hearing about, a lot of people have been looking forward to this kit.
Yeah, well, hopefully we'll see some on the tables the next model show season.
Hopefully. So okay, the other one is they've revealed the 2 new marking options. This is Airfix. They're coming out with a new tool, 72nd scale Blackburn Buccaneer. Now the Blackburn Buccaneer was a Cold War strike aircraft, originally done off of carriers, and then eventually the RAF used them, and they were used in Gulf War I. These ones are the naval ones. So they're basically number 800 squadron off of HMS Eagle in 71, and number 809 squadron off of HMS Ark Royal in 72. We haven't got a firm date. Later in the summer. This is one at some point I probably will pick up. I don't need to pick it up right away. I've got enough in the stash, but It's one I've always liked the look of. It's a
Yeah.
feisty little plane, and I always remember there's stories. And again, I'm repeating myself here. The stories about this thing was so good in low level flight that when it was when they were doing like exercises with American F4s and that, the F4s had a hell of a time picking these things up on radar
Nice.
because it could just go so low into the ground. And again, that's why the RAF used them, like I said, in Gulf War One. Very good low level strike. It was also nuclear capable, if I recall. So again, you wouldn't really use that in the low level strike because that would, you'd have to go real quick.
Yeah.
You're dropping this thing at 500 feet. I don't think you're going to get out of the blast range.
Yeah. Now the Buccaneer is sort of a multi-role
It was
fighter too, right? It could function in these
well, it
different.
was
roles.
really an attack aircraft. So like the equivalent, of the intruder and stuff like that. And yeah, very nice little aircraft. Again, back in the, as we used to say, the pinnacle of British Air Force and aircraft engineering way back when.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on from Airfix. Let's go over to the Far East. We'll go into the world of Tamiya. Some of their July announcements, as usual, a lot of RC. They're re-releasing the 124th Lamborghini Countach, the red body with the clear coat. That's an iconic kit.
That's an awesome car.
Yeah, so they're re-releasing that. They're releasing, I don't know if this is a re-release or a new one. I think this is a new one. This is the Hummel, this German heavy self-propelled howitzer. And actually, no, this is a new release. So all new tooling, basically German assault gun. And you can also comes with 3 figures, 2 marking options. As well, you can also get an aftermarket metal barrel from Tamiya. They're producing it separately.
Awesome. Yeah.
A metal barrel. So yeah, nice looking kit there.
I love these sets because they've done this before where they have like your figures are set up in the poses for loading.
And they've always been really good about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then you get the upgrade set. What a great way to put together a package for the, like you can get the basic kit.
And
sometimes they do one with figures and without.
Yep, sometimes, but mostly, for the self-propelled guns, they tend to have some figures.
Yeah,
and then,
I've seen this sort of setup with the Japanese Type 90 tank where you could get it by itself. This is a number of years ago, and then you could get a different version with a loading crew. So, and of course they have their aftermarket sets that it's going to be good quality and it's going to fit well because it's.
And I'm sure some of the other manufacturers out there are going to have aftermarket sets as well. So Tamiya doesn't do a lot, and they often subcontract. So, for example, they're also releasing a detail upset for a 1/350th scale Japanese destroyer, the Yakos.
Oh yeah,
I'm sure our friends at On the Bench, David's cringing here, because he builds a lot of those.
Yukikaze.
Yukikaze, yeah. So basically, this is actually made by Pontos Models. They're based in South Korea. So Tamiya's just rebranding them and selling it.
Oh wow!
But again, the fiddly photo etch, which drives me
nuts. This is just the photo etch detail set.
Yeah, they've had this kit out for a little bit. So they've just announced this now. So.
Yeah, that's nice when they collaborate because again, you're going to get a really nice fit.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Looking at a few other things under tools and paints, 3 more to their acrylic line brings it up to 69. Nice. Smoke, clear blue, and clear yellow. So again, they're really expanding the whole lacquer line quite quickly. Looks like 3 new releases every month. So
yeah, very cool.
Yep. So again, very, very, very popular as well. All right, moving on.
What's next?
I'm glad you asked me that because we have Edouard. Items for June and July. I'm actually combining these because I think we missed some of the June ones earlier. So we'll start with the June ones, and because I know some people were talking about this on the ScaleMate site. I believe we briefly talked about. Actually, no, we didn't talk about this one. This is a SPAD 13. I've got the old Airfix 128th version. I think I talked about that from Torcan. This is a 148th version. They're also re-releasing the FW190A8 in 148th and an F18 in 148th, the Superbug. So very nice looking decal scheme. So that's been released. A Spitfire Mark 8.
Mark 8?
Mark 8 in 148 scale.
And that's the weekend edition.
And what else? We have a 190, F190 and 1/144th. And then they also have some overtrees. Now, have you heard of the term overtrees before?
No, I'm not familiar.
Okay, overtrees are basically when they do a production run. Okay, in the ideal world, if they do a production run, you let's say you're doing 1,000 kits, right? So you get 1,000 set of sprues, 1,000 set of decals, 1,000 boxes, 1,000 instructions. Okay. Overtrees are extra sprues, basically.
Ah, okay.
So what'll happen is sometimes they'll offer them like without decals, without anything else. So in this case, because Edouard uses the Hasegawa kit, they obviously had some overtrees. So one was so they have the F-18E overtrees, and so these are actually Hasegawa sprues, and they're just clearing their stock.
Oh, okay.
So
I've actually seen that available.
Yeah,
That was remember I was telling the story about the old Halcyon Aliens dropship. It was just a bag with parts.
Yep, similar.
That it must have been somebody
Similar
opened a box
idea.
and they had overstock.
Exactly.
From
so this basically 1, 2, 3, 6 sprues, including one clear for the F-18. You don't get instructions. You don't get anything else. Just extra sprues, and they've and again you save a little bit of money. Basically, because if you've got your own decals and if you've built the Hasegawa before, and thanks to the internet, you can load it up online.
Yeah, there's always places to find
like
copies of instructions.
Also, they've got the photo etch set. Of course, it is Edouard, so you will have photo etch sets for each of these releases. As usual, they've also got from the brass inline P40 exhaust stacks. Now they're also doing remember I told you about a company called Yahoo out of Poland that just does instrument panels only?
Yes.
They call it Look, Look. So they're doing kind of the same thing now, just the instrument panels.
Cool.
So they're doing some for, again, a couple of these new releases. What else do we have here? We have F-14D ejection seats for the Tamiya kit. All sorts of tons of new things. It goes quite a ways. They do a lot of releases for that. So that is the June. And then the July, let me find that here. We will load up the July one. This was their information. This is their newsletter that goes out to all the distributors. So they featured a couple of things here, what they're coming out with, like a 72nd scale Profipac F6, F3. Now, the one that caught my eye is the 148 scale Tempest. They released two versions of this kit already, late last year and early this year. They're now amping it up by doing a Royal Class boxing. So the Royal Class boxing typically has two or three kits with a lot of different markings, and usually you get an extra goodie. Like I know ages ago the Spitfire, you got like a beer glass or things like that.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so there was a bonus. This one comes with a very nicely detailed reference book. So this basically comes
cool.
Plus the photo etch, plus the so basically two full-on kits, 48 scale kits with the masks, with the photo etch sets, etc., etc. And it comes with a picture book that covers the Tempest, the Mark V in service. So
cool.
Quite a few extra stuff. How many? I think like a dozen or so marking schemes, like absolutely huge amount of schemes.
So this is the deluxe.
This is the deluxe boxing,
yeah.
And this again, it has two boxings of the kit. They previously had like a MiG-17. They've had a Spitfire. All sorts of different ones. So they haven't released one of these in a while. They're their Royal Class boxing series. So I just wanted to point that out.
It's really neat.
Yeah, they've also got a couple of Big Ed sets for the Lancaster B for the Hong Kong models. They've got an internal set for that. So again, lots of different stuff coming out of there. They just produce an absolutely insane amount of product that either been re-release or re-release. Yeah, I subscribe. I get their little magazine they have every month, and often has some good little references, little stories and that, and then they go into some of the products. Just absolutely amazing. So
awesome.
Yeah, it's always worth reading these sales brochures as they come out, because you never know.
Yeah, and we've included a link for the listeners to check out the leaflet.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, so you'll see that on our show notes page.
Yep, exactly. Okay, moving on. Kitty Hawk. They're going to release a 148, and it's going to be first of a series because there's various variants of the SU-25 Frogfoot in 2020. This is the Frogfoot's the Russian equivalent of the A-10 Warthog. It's a ground attack specialist.
Yeah.
Originally released in Afghanistan and stuff like that. It's interesting because, again, our friends at Modeling News pointed out that they've also released a lot of 48 scale ground equipment, like tankers and that. So this is, basically, and they produced a lot of 48 scale Russian aircraft. But again, here's another thing you can use. So, this looks good. It's, it's basically been used by air forces around the world. It's a very effective, apparently, ground attack aircraft. So, not much news other than they are going to be making one, and it's going to be first of a series, they're saying. So, and again, we'll have the link on there, and that will include.
I wonder, has this seen plastic before?
Yeah, it has. It has in various forms.
Probably quite old.
Yeah, I'm not up on my 48 scale Russian fighters, so I'm sure there's someone out there screaming at us now with the right answer. But yeah, basically, it hasn't been done in a while. Let me just let me look up.
Yeah, we can check on the old Scalemates.
Scalemates. They really should sponsor our show.
Should. We're going to have to reach out to them.
I will reach out to them again. No, there's been ones before. 144.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with this
32nd. Yeah, I've seen it before. Yeah. Trumpeters made some big ones and Edward has before. So this is a new. Yeah, it's been quite a few. Even some from model manufacturers. I have no clue who they are.
Oh yeah, 1 to 144 scale.
Yeah, and if you look down, you see Trumpeters done a lot. There's a lot of 142nd
scale. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, it's been done a lot. I think 24 different kits over the years. The one I remember was back in 2010, the Edouard boxing. Very distinctive box. But yeah, a lot of Russian manufacturers have made it, obviously. Very popular plane. Again, very similar role as the A-10, basically. So that's
it. Almost really screamed that when I saw the first picture. I thought, looks like an A-10, Russian A-10.
Yeah, it's designed to hang on low, loiter, a lot of armor. For when people are taking pot shots at you because you want to move some mud around them and stuff like that. So again, Kitty Hawk over the years, they've had mixed reviews on some of their releases. So, but a lot of people seem to like some of their Russian stuff. So, again, I'm sure that'll be exciting for those people. Okay, moving on. Special Hobby. Their July newsletter came out. So a couple of interesting releases there. Some experimental stuff, including the Fleischer V1. It's in 1/32nd scale, the flying bomb, but looks like you can assemble this basically in pieces if you want, like the wings folded as if it was on a cart.
I wonder if they include the cart. I'm just looking for that right now. But that's really neat.
Mm-hmm. 4 different machines, and so that'll be, kind of interesting. It doesn't really say, but I wouldn't be surprised if it did.
Oh, it does come with a transport trolley, so you could set it up.
Just as the box
disassembled. It's very cool.
Just as the box art. So that's 1/32nd scale.
Yeah.
They're also releasing a JA-37 Viggen, the fighter version. That's a Swedish home-built aircraft. 3 different machines there. And as usual, they also do some of the work for CMK, Checkmaster resin sets. So a lot of different resin sets coming out. Looks like a couple for the N1K2 Shinden, the George undercarriage set. What else? An ornament.
So that's all the panels.
Set. Yep. Now here's one.
And wheel wells.
Now here's one you may find interesting. Aircraft guys, a ground power unit, the MD3, 1/72nd scale. It's used by the U.S. Air Force.
Ooh, that's cool.
Yeah, a little resin set there. And of course, Viggen cockpit sets and various other things. There's also a Wellington crew for the Airfix one, for the Wellington bomber in 72nd scale. 3 different
ones. Nice looking figures.
Yeah, kind of getting ready for pre-flighting, stuff like that. They're also announcing some upcoming stuff of 72nd P-40E Warhawk, a T-33, Japanese and South American T-Birds. And so there we go. So that's from Special.
Some interesting stuff from Special Hobby.
Yep, exactly. Okay. Now, this one I saw on Facebook, and I had to like
Oh yeah.
mention it. So this is a company. This is a one man show, kind of like what you do. Panzer
Mm-hmm.
Concepts. So he casts his own resin. He makes his own thing. So he is releasing, and he's released a lot of other stuff before. So he's announcing a 1/35th scale, the SKL40 Bruno railgun. Now, Bruno was a series of railguns, 280 millimeters. It was used in the First World War, and then it actually was used all the way up until the Second World War. So
Okay, makes sense. Yeah.
yeah. So this beastie is made out of, what do we have here? We have resin, we have cast resin, brass barrel liner, laser cut acrylic, and then for one version with scale models, rails, and sleepers. So he's going to have 3 versions for sale. The World War One
Okay.
version includes the Jackson rotary based in rails, fixed base available separately. The second one is the World War II version, no jacks or turntables. They were actually removed by Belgium because Belgium got a couple of these guns as part of the armistice after World War One. They were used for coastal defense and that, and then there's number 3 is the fixed coastal defense. So
For the Atlantic Wall.
yeah, this is a monster kit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Now I believe he said through. Yeah, here we go. 300 for the first version, 275 for the second, and 260 for the third version. That's in US.
Yeah.
Still,
Yeah, that's going to be a very heavy lot of resin in this
Yeah,
kit.
and he says he can only produce about one a day. But yeah, very famous railway gun. Yeah, it was in service from, like I said, 1917 to 1945, actually. So yeah, very, very famous gun. So fairly, not as big as Anzio Aini or some of these other ones, but still, it'll be
Impressive, yeah.
it'll be a nice looking kit. And he's done a lot of other stuff too. He's done some different sizes of like a lot of German stuff, all sorts of things. He's done conversion kits, stuff like that. So drive wheels, some German half tracks, stuff like that. So this is his first foray into a really bigger kit, but he seems to get a lot of good reviews.
I'm just looking through here. He's got some quite interesting like upgrade kits, right? Like the Skoda wheels and the STZ drivetrain upgrade. So some pretty nice stuff to get your kits looking as sharp as possible.
Yeah, and he's been around. The company's been around. He originally started in '89. Then he revived the name in 2013. So he decided to create kits and conversions of more off-the-wall items that are not part of the mainstream line. They're designed in CAD, then 3D printed, laser cut, or CNC machined in-house. So yeah, this guy's an artist.
yeah, he's doing it all. That's great. Really cool.
He's doing it all. So at some point, I'm going to reach out to him too. He's on my list. We'll see if we can get him on. So
yeah, that'd be a great idea.
A good shout out to him. Yeah, definitely check it out. Some nice looking photos on the Facebook page of the beastie and showing you how it's assembled and stuff like that. So yeah, very good. A lot of good Facebook reviews. So we'll definitely give a shout out there. Okay, so what else do we have? Hasegawa, I just noticed one of their releases. Again, just something for the naval modelers. They've got a kit which consists of 3 different Japanese World War II destroyers in 1/700th scale. So again, looks like interesting, tiny little things, but a new release from them. The Yagumu, Kazagumu, and Azaguma. Withdrawal strategy from Kiska Island. I think Kiska in Alaska. It might have been part of the Alaskan, brief occupation of some Alaskan, the Aleutian Islands. So box art's very nice too. So again, I just thought I'd mention
they always have nice packages.
They always do. So I just thought I'd mention that. Our good friends Arma Hobbies. Arma is a company out of Poland, and they produced a very nice, and it's almost like a crowdsource they did. Of a 1/72nd Hurricane a while back. They're now releasing one with naval decals, so like a Sea Hurricane sort of thing.
That's cool.
So they're going to be releasing that later in July. So I thought I'd throw a link in there because, again, they're a very small company. I think they only have 3 full-time employees, including the founders. But, again, they've got some very good reviews of the kit. And apparently they've kind of indicated they're going to be releasing something else new, and we'll have to just keep our eyes open for it. So That's very good as well from our good friends at
We'll
Armada
bring it to you first.
We'll try and bring it to you first. Yeah, at some point I want to get a copy of this kit. At some point, because it's a nice looking, even their other 72nd scale one. Okay, and just some other stuff when I was trolling around. I found this one on ScaleMates. This is a Ford Mustang V8 engine in 1:3 scale. So still a fairly good size. Build your own working 1965 Ford Mustang engine. So it's a brand new release, new tool, 2019. I don't know much more about it. The brand's called Francis. I think they're out of Germany. So yeah, and they produced a Porsche Carrera motor in 1:3, and they're coming out with a BMW R90S as well.
So, I've seen that one.
Yeah, so they released a couple.
And it works, right?
Like I guess so. Yeah, it's functional. Yeah, it kind of reminds me of was it Revell? Remember Revell did the Visible V8, kind of similar thing. So again, I just thought that looked kind of neat.
It's interesting. Yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah, something new to see. So definitely worth checking that out if you're into that. Okay, let's move on to what's hot at ScaleMates. So I was in the new release section, so I need to click what's hot at ScaleMates. What's hot? Probably a lot of the stuff we've already been talking about, or we have been talking about. The Starfighter, the Kinetic F-148 scale, the Luftwaffe. The Airfix, the Mark 14. There's a bit of some debate going on in the internet world about this one. Some very prominent reviewers in that. I'm trying to think. John, the dentist.
Oh, Paul Budzig?
Yeah, thank you. He gave us a review, and he was less than happy. And there was some issues, and other people love it. So it's an interesting. So there's a bit of conflicting reviews on this kit. I like it.
Do you have this one, Stu?
I don't have this one yet. It's the Mark 14 is on my list at some point. It's a Griffin engine powered Spitfire. It's a late war. It doesn't have the Merlin. They really put a nice new engine in. I'm kind of surprised I haven't got one yet. There is quite a few other offerings. Eduard has one, Tamiya.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see once more of these get built. But, he did have some valid concerns. Like if you look, and the other interesting thing is, he bought 4 kits. He bought 2 from Hanitz and 2 from somewhere else just to make sure, and they all had similar issues. It's more the quality control. So, so there could be something. Okay. Well, some of it design, so kind of surprising considering the way Airfix is going. So, again, we'll have to see how the reviewers are. He's, in the end, he says it's not bad. It goes together. It's a Spitfire. But he's just not sure if he really wanted a really good one, if he would use it. So
interesting.
Yeah,
we'll have to call Mr. Budzig and see if we can have a chat with him.
Yeah, he did a 2-part review, and again, he models at a different type than a lot of people, and
he is. I've gone through all his videos, and I'm a big Budzig fan, and I've even got some of his original articles in Fine Scale Modeler. He is very particular.
He's very good, and that's fine.
And it's great. Yeah, and it's great to kind of get into that.
Yeah. But yeah, mode. I can see where he's talking about some of the quality control issues. So, moving on, still the Tamiya Mark 1. Everyone loves that.
There's a new Sherman.
Yep, the Ryefield model. I think we talked about that briefly.
The EZ8,
Yeah, the EZ8. The Eduard Superbug we talked about. The Toyota Racing Hybrids out. The normal... The F-14D from Tamiya.
Still hanging on there.
The Sheridan's still being talked about. Mini Arts Garage Workshop. That's part of their series.
Cool.
Needless to say, the 124 scale Hellcats being talked about. So
Absolutely.
Quite a few, again, quite a few new things. Oh, here's one. IBG models. The 75 millimeter French field gun from 1897, modified 1938. 135th scale. From a company called IBG. So for those of you who like your howitzers and guns like that, most of the usual suspects on here still. I do notice there's for the car modelers, there's a 1953 Ford F-100 pickup truck and a Coca-Cola livery. And I do know this actually comes with a model of the vending machine. So it includes the die-cast vending machine and the dolly to haul the thing. So it's a very attractive looking. So if you know someone who's a Coca-Cola fan or an old pickup truck fan, they'll like this.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah, again, it's a reissue. And it's been under the AMT brand at various different names, reboxes, whatever. But yeah, this one's actually come with the Coca-Cola livery. I'm just looking back to see when it was originally. It probably goes way back. Yeah, 1964. The original tooling was AMT, and then MPC had one, and of course the companies get merged and stuff like that. So, but again, some of these old molds are still really good. So something.
Absolutely, yeah, they just capture the proportions correctly, right? That's sort
exactly.
of the key.
So you can't really improve on that. So as long as the molds can still produce crisp, the metal molds can still produce crisp plastic and whatnot. Why the heck not? So so that's kind of cool. So that's pretty well all the new releases from our friends at ScaleMate. So definitely check them out. Okay, moving on. I got so many links open, it's not funny. Moving on. Oh, I just briefly wanted to mention our good friends at On the Bench, that other modeling podcast on the southern half of the world in Australia. They did a special show out of their sequence. They normally produce off weeks than we do, but they had their big equivalent of nationals down there, their big Australia thing. So they did a special show. They did a lot of interviews. Model Expo, a lot of interviews, a lot of good stuff. So definitely check that out. And we'll talk a little bit later about our ongoing Musaru Cup in a little bit when we get to our individual builds. So let's move on. Let's talk about what's been happening at Goodman Models lately, Anthony.
Oh, lots of stuff's going on. So I've been just trying to churn out some blocks. I haven't done as much as I like on the website, but I am offering something new to everyone.
Okay.
I'm not even sure I told you about this, but on occasion, so the way the blocks are made, if the blade isn't super sharp, sometimes I get blocks back that are slightly chipped.
Okay.
And I don't feel right about selling them and putting them in a set. So I've got this box full of these but they have a small chip or something on a corner, and it's like, what do I do with these? So I decided to I'm going to put out or make available to the public factory seconds.
Factory seconds. Awesome.
Yeah. So I did make some listings. I still have to refine them, but I have basically all the different grits made up, and they're going to be like half price.
Awesome. And
they will not be available at any of my vendors or distributors. They're going to be just from me, and I'll have them at shows. But if you need a couple extras, or you want to try something out without getting in, you can order them straight from me. Perfect. And at a discount.
Awesome. Good to know.
While supplies last.
So move quick. And you're going to say you're going to have those eventually up on the website.
Yeah, I've started to make some listings, and you can just email me too, and I'll get in order together as well. But I do have tons of the regular stuff available. All my sets and singles are available, and they are also at Section 8 Hobbies in Buffalo, and you can get them from section8hobbies.com, and you can get them from Wheels and Wings in Toronto. They have lots of singles in stock and value packs.
Awesome. Good stuff. Okay, as usual, we thank Goodman Models for their support of the podcast.
You're welcome.
Okay, let's get on to our topic, and namely our interview today. So Scott Taylor, Scott Taylor's Kim Taylor's minion. No, her husband. That's the same thing, right?
Yeah. Which one's the better half?
Well, we're married, so we know it's obviously our wives, right? In case they're listening. Or in case to all the people that would tattle if I
was going to say listen to the interview and then come to your conclusion.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, they're both pretty good halves.
They are. Scott, I've known Scott for absolute years.
Yeah, he's a super guy.
So yeah, he does a lot of armor stuff and things like that, and we also talked a little bit about publishing and things like that. So let's just I'll stop yapping and we will play the interview. Here we go. Stuart here again from the Scale Model Podcast, and we're in another interview segment. So we're here with Scott Taylor. Scott's a London area modeler and arm enthusiast. He has written several leading modeling magazines and has been an editor for several hundred military books. He has done research for Dragon and AFE Club models, and he's been active in the hobby for over 50 years, which meant he started as a wee lad. So he's also a local modeler to both Anthony and myself, being both involved over the years with IPMS London and Southwest Western Ontario AMPS chapter. I hope I've said that right.
Close enough.
All right. Welcome to the podcast, Scott.
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, Anthony, you can take it away, sir.
Sure. Yeah. So we want to talk with Scott a little bit about his reference book work, and he's worked closely with David Doyle, who produces a series of books called Images of War, where you get a specific reference book about a vehicle. And I have one on the Bradley, and I think he also does other more than just vehicles, but also planes as well.
David's done hundreds of titles on aircraft, ships, and military vehicles, as well as a few other things that are a little more esoteric, like Lionel trains.
I couldn't get over the sheer number when I was doing some research in advance, because I know I've seen you and displaying some of them at shows and that, but there's hundreds, as you say, hundreds.
Every subject is covered.
David's incredibly prolific and very, very meticulous with his research.
Awesome.
That's one of the things I really enjoy about him. Aside from the fact that he's like an incredibly nice person, and his family and us are have become very, very close friends over the years.
Oh, right on. Yeah, so I guess we'll get into our first question there. We're going to ask you about how did your relationship with David Doyle come about, and how did you get involved with the editing and contributing photos?
Eons ago, when I started the IPMS London website,
Way back when.
it was like 2005
Yeah,
or something like
Yep,
that.
yep.
I was trying to populate it with reviews, and I remember going to, I think it was Air Support Books in Kitchener-Waterloo, and picking up this little title on the M36 tank destroyer, which was, I think, a Verlinden Letter and Stock publication at the time. Anyways, the author was David Doyle. So I reviewed the book, and I posted it on the IPMS London website. And I remember, it was a good review, but not a glowing review. I remember finding a couple of things that I suggested for improvements. Anyways, out of the blue, I got an email from David. Who really, he appreciated the fact that I had actually reviewed the book, and also the comments. And so he said, if I wanted to, that if I wanted to take a look at some of his work as he was doing it, that I was welcome to. And
That's really
I remember it was not long after that I met him at I think it was the 2006 Thunder Over Michigan Air Show, and then we've been friends and collaborators ever since.
That's
and
really neat.
please be clear, I'm very much a supporting player here.
Yeah.
I've provided, and if he's working on something and I'm able to take photographs or have photographs I've already taken that he can use, I do so, and I edit his work for him before it goes to press, because
It's a lot of work.
well, it's not just that. He's very, very, very committed to trying to make things both accurate and also be grammatically correct.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I would say he's a little unusual in that respect.
Okay.
When I look at a lot of there's some beautiful glossy books out there nowadays, and
Poorly written,
the
Poorly
typographical errors and the
Yeah.
grammatical issues really bother me. And
Absolutely.
It's nice when you have someone who's both an author and an enthusiast. He knows.
There's some really
knows how
hard
to
books
think.
to read. I won't name any names or anything like that, but they're just tougher to get through.
Yep.
And harder to enjoy.
Yeah.
I think we definitely that almost sounds like a challenge. We need to get David on the show at some point.
Oh yeah.
We'll just say Scott suggested it.
Oh,
Yeah, that's
you can
all.
blame me.
We will.
I gotta say, I bought the M2 book.
Yeah, we talked about it in one of the
Yeah,
previous
I mentioned
episodes.
this before.
Yeah,
I bought it actually from Scott at the Heritage Con
at Heritage
show.
Con, yes.
And I have a kit. I've had the kit for a couple of years, and it probably will be a few more years before I crack into it. But I've read the book cover to cover, and it was really enjoyable, and I just flew through it, and it was really well done, and it does have amazing pictures, better than I'm used to reading the Squadron books, which I do enjoy.
Yep.
They're now they're getting to be
Of a
20
different
years.
era.
Yeah,
Different era,
yeah.
definitely.
You don't have the quality of the paper. There's been some changes, right? And we'll discuss that a bit more. But so it was such a pleasure to read, and and I did notice your name popped up a few times on some photos, and there were a number of contributors as well as Paul Bird had a lot of photos. He's from our AMPS club.
Yep.
He's a real Bradley aficionado.
Awesome, yeah.
That's who
So
you send your
really well
questions
done.
to when you're building.
I will definitely look
Poor Paul.
One of the things I really appreciate about David, I would say, compared to some other authors, is that he's really, really careful about not overstating what he knows.
Okay.
So he works. He has a vast collection of primary documents that he works from,
Cool.
and he's very, very careful to make only evidence-based statements.
Okay.
I appreciate that for
Yeah,
sure.
that's awesome. And as I said, we're going to have links in the show notes when we release this, so you can check out David's site himself and things like that. Okay, we're going to move on to our next question here. Once I find the right tab to open, there it is. Now, so in addition to that, you also do another business called Thatch Weave Products. So we're going to talk a little bit about both. So I just want you to, because we're going to ask you a little bit about some industry questions and stuff like that. But we had your partner Kim on a couple
Wife,
weeks ago.
you can use that term.
Whatever works for you.
Tale of two tailors.
A tale of two tailors. Yes, we're gonna have to use that maybe we'll use that as the show as the show title, the episode title.
There you
That'll
go.
work. Okay, if Kim doesn't like it, it's his fault. But no. So one of the things you also do is Thatch Weave Products, and Kim briefly described it a little bit, but I'm sure our audience doesn't mind. Kind of give us a little bit. How long has it been around, and more about what it does and where the name came from.
So, one of my favorite military vehicles is the GMC Duck amphibious truck.
Yes.
When I was a wee lad, I remember building the little Airfix 76 scale duck.
Yep.
It floated around in the bathtub in the pool. I remember that. It wasn't terribly seaworthy, which is kind of like the real
That's
duck.
kind of cool. Yeah. Exactly.
So I was delighted when, in the early 2000s, Italieri brought out a 35th scale duck finally, and I was like, "Oh, thank goodness!" So I got that sucker, and I started working on it right away. Now, once I had the hull assembled, and then I started looking at some of the accessory parts in there, and then, okay, this is an Italieri kit, right?
Yeah.
So
Let's
one of the things I noticed was like, oh, good God! Like the woven bumpers or fenders that are on the kit, they're plastic, and it's like, these are atrocious.
Just really soft.
They were
detail,
ghastly.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Blobs.
various other language
Yeah.
which we won't use here.
so I thought, good grief, there's got to be a better way.
Yeah.
So, Kim, aside from modeling, also does a lot of like needlework and weaving and stuff like that. So I showed her those, and I showed her photos of the real thing, and I said, "Can you make something like this?"
Yeah.
And so she did. I was able to, we worked on sort of figuring out how they would fit on the vehicle and what was going to look right, like what was an appropriate weave and all that. I remember finally getting them on the duck, and I was like, dang, that looks great.
Really pumped.
Like, I was really pumped.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
like,
They look
wow.
really
I've
good,
seen
yeah.
some pictures of your duck because they were in the sample packages,
Yeah.
right? It looked great. It was awesome.
It's
Breathe some life into the.
any mainstream company listening, we need a better duck model.
Oh, right. It's out there.
It's out there now.
But, I went to some shows, and I remember posting, I think I had some photos on the IPMS London site, and I put them on, hyperscale places like that. Anyways, people started contacting me. He's like, where'd you get those?
Nice.
Usually what happens.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I said,
I can
well,
relate
you know
to
what? Let me see. Maybe I can get you some made. And then
The
it all
rest is
kind of started
history.
from there.
Yeah.
So when was that around 2006?
It was 2000, late 2005, 2006.
Yeah, so over 10 years now.
Yeah.
And you've expanded the products. I've seen there's like sandbags, and the ones that really fascinates me are some of the helicopter landing nets
Yeah,
for the
so
ships.
we've, like you said, we've got like real sandbags. There's things like the Hessian tape camouflage netting stuff
Right.
for Commonwealth vehicles. Helicopter landing nets are one of those things we have. They're like those big nets that you see on Soviet ships, especially. In fact,
Right.
they're still using them, which
Yeah.
kind of shocks me. Everybody else is using a little more sophisticated tie-down systems for their helicopters. But you'll see them on the big Russian cruisers and the helicopter carriers and stuff like that. So
Right. So yeah, no, really good. So again, we're gonna put the link in. So now, I've got that intro. What's the biggest change you've seen in the industry? And we can start with either the book industry or the hobby industry. And how are you adapting to it?
within, if you're going to talk about the modeling industry, and I would say probably the aftermarket industry in particular, the thing that's truly revolutionizing, and I think it's going to change the face of the hobby, it already has, but certainly within the next 5 to 10 years, is 3D printing and everything associated with that.
Yeah.
It was 6 or 7 years ago, I think, when I bought my first 3D printed piece, which was a 155 millimeter long tom barrel for the AFV Club M40 kit. Because that basic kit, it's okay, but the gun barrel is definitely flawed. And I remember that was actually, like, nobody had done a good metal one or anything like that. So that was the only one
No
I
brass?
got. No.
Wow.
So I remember, like, I got this barrel and I was like, whoa, this is fantastic. Like, it was really, really impressive. So that really opened my eyes to the possibilities of it. I mean, now it's just about ubiquitous. Like, anybody can
Pretty well with a pattern.
between 3D
things
scanning
you
and 3D printing.
It's come a long way. And just what's interesting is you're also seeing places like putting on my library board hat, my local library, which I'm the board vice chair of. We now have 3D printers, and you could submit a pattern and have them print for a small cost. In fact, our local IPMS chapter tomorrow, we're actually having the guy who does it for us at the library come in and do a demo for the clubs, just to show what sort of thing with that. So in terms of the reference book side, what are some of the changes you're seeing? Because I noticed there was some of the bookstores that are selling David's books, they're also available in e-format now.
Yep, there are some publishers that do that. Of course, that opens up all of those little cans of worms about intellectual property, plagiarism, piracy, everything like that.
Yeah, it's almost more of a successful model to keep it.
It's a challenge.
Right?
And that can be a whole debate.
Yeah.
That can be a whole show on its own.
I have to admit, I'm old school. Like, when I'm working on a model,
I like
my
the book.
preference is to have a physical book beside me.
I love to hold it, look through it. I don't want to look at that screen.
But again, do you think it's a change that, in terms of the industry?
Oh, the changes are massive. I mean, for a lot of modelers, honestly, all they want are pictures. And so, the internet is full of pictures. Like, there's lots of people who post walk-arounds online, all those you can access all that information all over the place. What you often miss, though, with that is context. And that's the thing, is like when somebody writes a book, you are getting the intellectual property and the expertise of all of the work that's in the text and the captions.
I find that really valuable. Like, as a novice, there's so many, like, doing armor, for example, I've only done a couple pieces, and you've given me lots of help through our club meetings, but when I look through that, they mention things, this is such and such a thing, oh, that's what that's for, and then I get a better idea of maybe how it should be weathered or dirtied up, or I love finding out about what's that box on there, what does it do, and you get some knowledge, some information.
And I think
about
that's
the
definitely
subject.
one of the big things where the reference materials are.
Oh, yeah.
Because you often get the debate, why do we need that?
Plus, it's
why do we
fascinating.
need reference books in that? And that's exactly the reason.
I'd love to understand more about the subject, not just visually how to represent it, but like what does it do? Why is it there? It helps the fun of the project.
And I think that's the key to it, is that a book is going to help you understand your subject, if that's what you want. And I recognize not everybody wants that.
Sure.
My background, my academic background, is military history and international relations, so that's exactly what I want. And that's a very big part of what I actually enjoy about modeling, is learning about something through that.
Right.
And that's something that, like, modeling did that for me even when I was a kid. It would spark my imagination, my interest, and my curiosity.
Absolutely.
And I think it's also interesting because we see a lot of, instructional guides on how to weather things and stuff like that. And one thing that just occurred to me when you were saying that is, we talk about the future of the hobby, and we talk about, things like the kids are really into Gundams, how much sales Gundams make, and it strikes me, I'm thinking, okay, will there still be a need for so many books in 50 years based on historical subjects? Will there still, and again, I'm just curious for what your opinion of that is as the hobby changes. Is like, I know when I went past the stands when you were selling at the last two shows, there was always people there. There's a lot of interest, but Is it still skewing to an older crowd?
There's no question. Having been involved in the hobby long enough,
Right.
The audience, I guess, that we see, the crowd that we see modeling is graying. I feel like my generation has sort of grown through the hobby, and there's just not as much following it up. Like there's no way around that. At least in North America, that's just a fact of life. I subscribe to the IPMS USA, and they have an obituary column.
I know. I get
Really?
Yeah.
They do.
Wowza.
Yeah. It's an interesting thing, and again, we've talked about how the hobby is changing. It's evolving. It's and I think you're going to see, and we'll talk about a little bit where
I wonder if it's actually
we see
more
the hobby.
converging.
Yeah, in some ways, I think you will. And this is where I'm
You know
saying,
what I mean?
like, for example, if someone's a Gundam model or a figure painter, right? There's actually guides now on how to weather sci-fi models, how to paint figures.
Yeah, but that stuff's
a
been
lot
there
of our,
forever.
I know, but we're
It's just
still seeing
outside
that.
of
We're
the
still seeing
model,
that. The internet can't help you with
circuit.
that.
Yeah.
Where this is a good reference guide or someone
yeah.
instructing you. For example, like some of the articles your wife Kim has written, exactly that goes into specific things, just like you find in those reference books.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think there's something there. One of the things I did forget to mention was where the Thatch Weave story. Give us the background on the name Thatch Weave.
It's a great story.
Yeah, it's a great. Yeah, Anthony likes the story.
Well, we were looking for a name for it, and given that Kim was weaving these things, one of my favorite pilots and leaders from World War II is Jimmy Thatch, who was a U.S. Navy pilot who devised something called the Thatch Weave, so the F-4F Wildcats could fight against the more maneuverable Zeros during the early years of World War II. And so, what it meant was basically the aircraft would fly parallel to each other, and then they would keep weaving back and forth to cover each other's tail. And so when you look at that pattern, it's a weave.
That's awesome. That's a perfect name for the little business as well.
Yeah,
Sort of-
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Glad we got that in there. It's very cool. And kind of
So-
references a neat.
There are people who have looked at it and thought, thatch weave, you mean like the roofs in Gilligan's Island thatch? And it's like, no, there's only one T in it.
It's a good memorable.
Yeah.
It's a good memorable.
I didn't
name.
know the story, but when you explained it, obviously, really, it became very clear and was, kind of fun.
So I got to ask you, just because you're mentioning about Commander Thatch, you're going to be picking up that monster Airfix Selfie?
124.
Going to come over to the dark side?
I have my closet is full of aircraft.
Yeah. Okay.
No, I actually have a 72nd scale Airfix Wildcat
Right,
that is
okay,
going to be
yep.
Jimmy Thatch's. I got the
Okay.
decals.
Awesome.
The best thing I
just
could say
curious.
about the 24 scale Hellcat is thank goodness the wings fold.
Yeah, exactly. And I've been saying about the Lancaster. I'd love one of the 32nd scale Lancaster. I just don't got room.
Largest aircraft kit I've got is a Tamiya 32nd scale F-14.
Right.
And again, thank
that's a
goodness the
monster.
wings fold.
Yeah, that is a monster.
Yeah.
Okay, Anthony, over to you.
Well, so back to the reference, working on the reference books, and your experiences there. Can you give us some of the details about how the books are put together and how you get your part of it to David? And
Well, I mean, it's very much I use WeTransfer.
perfect.
That works.
No, it's honestly, as I said, I'm very much a supporting player on this.
Yeah.
David's got the lead writing things, and so if he's got a project where he might have specific photographic needs, he'll say, "Hey, do you happen to have photographs of the engine deck of an M4A2EA?" And I'll say, "Well, how many?" And then,
That's awesome.
well, that was a little sidetrack I went on back in 2006-07. I had to put it in my head. I was going to try and photograph and catalog every surviving Sherman in Canada. And there's about 60 of them. I got about 40 done so far.
Oh,
That's good.
I'd say you're pretty successful.
sounds like it should be
You
a
got
website.
60% of that.
Well, it didn't end up being a website, but I think it's about 400 photos from that ended up in the Ampersand Son of Sherman book.
Oh, excellent.
Because one of the things I was doing is I was documenting every different variation and casting of the turrets and of the suspensions and everything like that.
So the book for true Sherman geeks.
That is the ultimate Sherman geek
that's
book
really
for
good.
sure.
That's
Comprehensive.
awesome.
So, if you want to know what the differences of the contours and the casting marks are of a Pacific Steel Company turret versus General Steel castings, then that's the book for you.
Awesome. There you go. Sorry, can you give the listeners the title of that book again?
Son of Sherman.
Son of Sherman.
Because lots of people love Shermans.
Oh,
right?
yeah,
It's a very
popular
iconic
tank. Popular
vehicle,
tank.
and very popular. And there's kits coming out every
One of
month.
my-
it seems.
Oh, there's a whole bunch that are coming out just
One
right
of my
around
first
now.
135th kits, armor kits, when I got back in the hobby was a Sherman. Unfortunately, it was a Sherman Firefly where at the track some of the armor guys in the club said, "You started with that one, you poor bugger."
The first Dragon release, right?
Exactly.
Oh yeah, those tracks were joy.
I gave up on those tracks and I just bought some. Yeah, exactly. They said, "Don't worry, it gets better." So I will trust them, and I have built a couple of 35th since, and they've been much better. Actually, I think I switched some questions around. So if you want to ask number 5, you can go from there.
Okay, yeah. So again, talking about the work on the reference books. What are some of the challenges? Have there been any challenges that you've seen just being a contributor, working on the projects, and then a follow-up question: how do these books stand out? Because I've given them a glowing review, but you've seen a lot more books than I have.
The challenges are the same as with anything that you're writing. Like, I know for me, it's always that one last piece of information you were looking for, you find right after the thing publishes. Yeah. Like, I mean, way back, I worked on a couple of decal sheets for Aeromaster, and one of them was on U.S. Navy and Marine Aces.
Okay.
So it was a 48 scale set that had, I think, like 16 or 18 aircraft.
So were you
in it.
researching or drawing decals?
I was doing research.
So correct, like color, shapes.
Yeah, and just trying to pin them down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Larry Watson helped with some of the Navy stuff, and I did the Marine stuff and the rest of the Navy stuff that didn't involve Alex Rasu.
Okay.
But, I remember, like, I was so proud of myself that I had managed to get what I thought was the most accurate imagery that was out there
In other words, you cursed
of
yourself.
Greg
You cursed
Boyington's
yourself, yeah.
the famous number 86 that you
Right.
see the photos of him
Yeah.
with all the kills on it.
Yep.
This beautiful photo that showed like the weathering, where the tape lines were over the fuel tanks in front of the in front of the canopy were and everything like that. There was a guy standing on the engine, sort of halfway blocking part of the name Lulubelle, which was written on the side.
Right.
I was like, all right, I got this. This is like the best one ever. And then I swear to God, it was probably like a month after that went to press. And I saw a photo, and it's like, good grief, it says Lucy Bell.
That's tough. What are you gonna do? You gotta work with the
Never
best
assume
reference
anything.
available.
That's all you can
Oh
do.
no! Look,
Yeah.
it was
I know.
it was lore.
It was
that
Lord,
it was
yeah, I know.
Lulubelle
Yeah.
then, and it was
then
like
someone released a
crap,
picture.
it was like it just had
after
that like missed it by that much.
Well, I guess that's a good excuse for a second edition.
Aeromaster sadly is long gone,
I know,
and I would
yeah.
hope that other companies have released. All
I'm
it
sure
needed
they
was
have.
to just replace that word.
Oh, that's tough.
That could be extra rare, though.
Well, that actually is a rare set.
Yeah,
but
so,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. No, that's that can be pretty cool. So, what we do is we always ask some other standard questions. We briefly touched on this, and this one opens up a lot of can of worms potentially, just the way I like it. Where do you see the hobby in 5 to 10 years? And I always like to say, think that out, because again, it is an evolving hobby. I've noticed even over the last 10 years, it's changed.
this has this best of times, worst of times feel.
Yeah. And it's funny because people do answer it, and in the end, a lot of times there's some differing opinions, but in the end, it's the same themes kind of come back.
Yeah. So I suppose it depends on what you would consider a definition of success and health in the hobby. I mean, there's no way we're ever going to go back to those times of like the early 1960s when I think it's like 90% of boys had built at least one model.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's sadly that's long gone.
Kits
For
and
better or worse, that's
kits
long
and
gone.
grocery stores, kits and drugstores.
Oh, they were. That's right. I remember I could go down to the corner store, the grocery store,
Yeah.
the department store, and buy kits.
Yeah.
That, I mean that's. it was like my 6th or 7th birthday. I remember, like, in the goodie bags that we gave my friends were those little bagged Airfix Sherman kits.
Oh,
Yep. Awesome.
seen those.
So we're not going to get back there. But the diversity and the quality of kits that's available now is unparalleled.
It's like
There's
golden age.
There's topics available that I never would have in my wildest dreams have imagined would be out there, and of staggeringly good quality. I don't know how sustainable it is, though.
Right.
I look at the prices, and I can imagine that the quantity of kits being produced must be a fraction of what it was in the heyday.
And that's,
of any
one of, the,
given
that's one of the
kit.
challenges we've had to try and get sales numbers, particularly in North America. Japan, Bandai's a little bit more open about it, where they do tens to hundreds of thousands. And yeah, you just look compared on the industry over there versus North America, and it's been a challenge. And I agree with you. I think they're definitely making less, and there seems to be a lot more limited runs. It's very rare they'll do a reissue right away.
And what you're seeing is we're getting these magnificent kits, but at a high price. And there's like a supply demand curve. So
You sort of can't have one without the other, right? Like you can't
No.
expect a.
but there's also
The
a feedback
quality.
loop. Like
Yeah.
the higher prices are. Well, that's where probably they're lucky that their audience is graying and has more disposable
And
income.
I think that's one of the big things.
So it sort of matches. The industry is matching the consumer base
And it
the
does.
way they see it.
But at some point, that's going to drop out
And I think
or be buried.
And I think you've got to also be aware it does cost a hell of a lot to produce these, produce
Yes.
the molds and things
Tooling
like
the
that.
machines is like
Exactly, a
hundreds
lot of
thousands dollars
research.
sometimes.
There was a series on the BBC recently where they went behind the scenes at Airfix Hornby, and what's involved for that and what's changed over the years and what the people demand. But I also say, I think in some ways the newer technologies also in terms of the aftermarket, you can, like both of you run businesses now. Can you imagine being able to reach the audience you can reach, let's say 30 or 40 years ago? Right, because thanks to the internet, you now truly have a global reach, and I think in some ways that's forced the larger manufacturers. They have to up their game, but it also forces them to be very careful and very selective. Unless you're Bandai, which seems to I'm always amazed at the number of, we talked about, you're a Gundam expert,
huge.
the number of builders out there. And this is where I was briefly touching on before. We've got a lot of, the kids now, they want to see what they remember or they saw on TV or whatever. It's like the same in the model railroad industry and in the miniatures industry, and we talked to Kim about this a little bit on how that changed, but it's also merging. You can take ideas from all three hobbies and mix and match, and I think that's going to be, there's just so much different products, and if people truly believe the hobbies was dying, you wouldn't see 10 different paint lines come out in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
The hobby is changing.
Yeah.
Dying is difficult. I will still contend that it is very much graying.
I think the average mean age has moved up. I agree.
Yes.
I certainly agree. We see a lot more people, even if you look at the shows or if you look at our club, you have a lot of people now who, they were in it when kids, they discovered cars and girls, and we say the same in the model railroad world.
Yeah.
And then they come back when they've got some kids, or as you say, disposable income. So we're seeing a lot of that. Yeah, we're gone, as you said, from 90% of boys. We're building. I still don't know if it's graying as much as people think if you look at worldwide.
Yeah, I think
Worldwide, I would agree, and I'm simply talking
You
about
North America? Okay.
what
Now,
we're
if
used
you-
to. Yeah. Our area. And,
Yeah,
Yeah.
Well, I'm graying. So,
If you go back to where the industry's going, I don't know what the long-term future of mass-produced kits are, because I think at some point soon you're going to have the majority of the industry probably selling STL files that people can print.
Yep.
So then you're not having those massive tooling costs of creating those steel molds. It's becoming very much you're buying a design, or even you're creating a design and then you're printing it yourself, or you're sending it off to somebody who's got a commercial grade printer to do it.
Yeah.
But certainly the availability of printers is just
I think we're going to see a
blossomed.
lot more, and we see it in the publishing industry now, print on demand.
Yeah.
You're seeing a lot of that already. I look at, some of the Kickstarters for some of the reference books. I know in the model railroad world, there's a bit of that. Some of the miniatures, same thing. So yeah, I think it's a change, and it's one of the things we were talking about briefly before we turned on the mic, is where you do see a lot of people, as you say, in North America in particular, they're dying off and they're leaving these huge collections. I just saw a post from the store near Ottawa,
Bill's Hobby Center.
Bill's Hobby
I watched
Center.
that little video as well.
And the guy who's the estate, I assume it's an estate.
Yeah.
The spare room was full, the shed was full,
The attic space.
thousands
It
of
was
kits
nuts,
that
yeah.
aren't, and again, I think I've also realized now there is two hobbies. There's building and there's collecting.
Yeah, and I'll be the first to admit I dabbled in both.
Yeah, I used to, and now I've really cut back.
Yeah, and I say I emphasize dabble.
Yeah.
I've cut back on a lot of my stash. Like I don't have duplicates of kits.
Yeah,
I don't have something that looks like a store.
Mm-hmm.
And I've gotten rid of a lot. I need to get rid of a lot more, and that means either getting rid of them as in selling them or giving them away or building the darn things,
Yeah.
which is what they were originally intended
And
for.
I think that's the big thing, and I think it's curious when we go to like some of the shows here. What are you mostly seeing? You're seeing it's. I always kind of laugh about being the garage sale model. You're seeing the same kind of older kit moving its way around the. In some ways it is.
There is an ancient kit.
Yeah.
It was from 1986 or 7, I think.
Okay.
A company called Model Technologies, who was one of the very first aftermarket companies.
Okay.
They built this. They released this kit of the B-2 stealth bomber. And before it was
it
released.
the vacuum
Yeah.
form one?
The vacuum
That pops
form-
like this?
Yes. So
seen that.
I bought that kit and I sold it probably 25 years ago,
Yeah.
and I'll bet you I've seen it on 8 or 9 tables since then.
Pop moving its way
It
around.
is,
I gotta
and there's
say,
I
it
know
looks
it's that
awesome.
kit.
Yeah.
It's yeah.
Was
I know.
was that a super pricey kit when it came out?
I was able to get it really reasonably.
Okay. Because that would have been like a low run.
Oh, it was a big vacuum form. Yeah,
shells?
no.
Yeah.
That thing's like a giant Dorito tray.
So was it unbuildable?
Well, for me, yes. Because
For
I
the
mean,
average human being.
you're talking about a triangle
like,
that's
yeah.
about 2.5 feet on each
Yeah,
side.
yeah.
I gotta say, I was tempted to buy that. I've seen that one,
Yeah.
probably yours.
And I think,
$25.
So
Looks
like there's
amazing.
two. So you've got two pieces that are 2.5 feet on each side that you've got to glue together.
Oh, good luck.
I know some vacuum form guys in our club that would consider that a challenge.
Madness.
Oh, it is
Oh,
a
yeah.
challenge. It-
I got love
but
it.
it's,
too,
but it's
right?
but it's true. I think when we talk about in terms of builders versus collectors versus, like, I look at what I have in my stash and I maybe have under 50, and I'm thinking I don't have room to put all
less than
these.
that, Stuart.
I know.
pointing at
Like
my closet.
as I'm looking at Anthony's stash, I'm going to take a picture of it just to, and exactly. But then we start realizing what do we do with these older kits? And again, we were saying briefly, like if you want to wind a Facebook group up, you basically go in and you say, I've run out of room to display. I want to display my latest ones, so I'm getting rid of the old ones. And you film yourself tossing those in the garbage and watch people lose their what.
Yeah.
And it's in the end it's what works for you.
But that's same as it ever was. Like
Oh,
when
I
I
know.
was,
I know,
when
it's
I
funny.
was 12,
Yeah.
we just disposed of them with a BB gun,
With
or
a
a firecracker.
firecracker.
Like,
I
it's
know.
just
But it's just funny. A lot of these ones complaining, that's what they used to do.
Yes.
But it's stuff like everything else. But I don't know. I just find, because again, I've never I'm more of a minimalist anyway, and I watch some of these hoarding shows, and I just look at some of these people, and it's kind of sad in some ways because they are supposed to be built,
there's
Yeah, the
there's
pleasure
no
is
question
in-
that's what they were
yeah.
designed
Yeah,
to
but
do.
obviously
Pleasures
there's people
in doing
derive
it.
pleasure at seeing those shells.
Yeah.
But like as you say, you look at some of them where someone has 9 copies of the same kit, and it's like
You'll never get to them, but
Yeah.
the pleasure is in building it and the pain, the
and another
success,
similar thing I like to
glory.
say with the graying of the hobby is maybe that's why we're seeing more larger scale kits.
I think there's something to that.
Yeah, because
It's true.
but like
see anymore.
again, where do you put them? Like one of the big resin companies, they made a 148 B36. They're coming out with a 148 B52. And it's just
I'm shaking my head.
Madness.
Matt, you need a whole
Why
new
would
wing of
you
the
do
house.
But I would look at the run we're getting on 32nd
Exactly.
scale 4-engine bombers right now.
Exactly.
To me, that's
There's
also
a-
madness.
there's
Like,
also
it's
a
way
demand.
past me.
Yeah. But again, there's
Same here.
these companies wouldn't produce it unless they felt there was a market, and that's what it. Now,
I do,
some of the
I do
market.
disagree. I think that with with the 30-second Lank from.
Two manufacturers.
Well, not
Two.
not HK. I'm thinking more specifically of
Wingnuts.
Wingnut.
Yeah.
I think that was a passion project.
Oh.
That guy did
Yeah.
not. Whoever. I mean,
Well,
I'm
it's
Peter Jackson.
it's Peter Jackson's
I don't
company.
think he
He's-
cared about the
Oh no, he's a
viability
Lancaster.
marketplace.
He's
like,
a huge
I'm
Lang-
doing this, and it
he's
will
a
be
huge
glorious.
Stambuster fan. Yeah, exactly.
But
He's-
but
no.
everybody else has to consider: can I sell 1 million units? Can I sell 100,000 units? Will I sell?
Well,
55?
Oh no, no!
Again, you
I
remember
would
how
be
many
surprised if
orders?
your print
Five,
runs you're talking.
10,000.
Yeah, I would
If
say
that.
probably 10,000.
And again, this is where people will snatch them up. But again, you wonder. I always love to know how many will actually get built. You've got a lot of people saying, "Look, I got the latest
Fingers
shiny."
crossed, everybody.
For a lot of those
Exactly.
huge kits, if you can avoid that initial temptation to purchase and you
You
wait
will-
2 or 3 years,
you'll pick it
you're
up for
gonna
a bargain.
Yes,
Yeah,
you will. You'll
exactly.
get it at a show at a
And
first
this is
deal.
I'm gonna
this
get
is
my
the thing
share.
this is the thing I find with me lately. I've got enough stuff to build, and yeah, I will.
I have enough stuff
I can
to build
wait. There's
for
a few
2
things.
lifetimes.
There is a few things I will buy new, like my
Yeah.
next project, which is the Edward Spitfire.
Yeah.
I did buy when it came
It's
out.
fun to
Yeah,
fun to
it
get
is.
wrapped
It
up
is.
in the excitement.
And there's nothing
grab it.
wrong with that,
Yeah.
but it's
Once
an
in a
interesting
while,
thing
right?
when we look at the whole state of the hobby. And yeah, what you're saying is basically what others. Sorry, go
Yeah,
ahead.
no, I was going to say the trick with for me when you buy a new kit is buy it when you intend to build it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, if you
Makes
can
sense.
avoid if you can keep it from making that death march into the stash, then
Yeah.
it's worth it.
I like to buy stuff as I need it, and then I'm
And
sort
then-
of
But
using it.
there's always
And there's
those
always
kits
that
that
amazing
like,
deal you see at the show.
There's the amazing
Yeah.
deal which you got to learn to resist,
Yeah.
or there's just that thing you've waited for forever, and it's
Yeah.
finally in plastic.
It
And then
must
it's like,
be mine.
I only have one regret story. I'm not sure we've talked about this, but
All right.
this is a modeling regret story.
it is, yeah,
Okay.
a modeling regret story because I have a very small stash. I've sold some. Everything's always for sale, and like these are just projects, kind of ongoing and finished stuff. But and I'm pretty good at resisting the new stuff, and I'm always on a budget, a kit diet, as I say. I'm not allowed to have any. But I have one regret that I didn't buy it, and it was in Wonderfest back maybe 2006. It was the end of the show. I'd already spent all my money. I was a student at the time. I shouldn't have spent any money or been anywhere near a model show. And this dude shows up with a box and he puts it on the table and he opens it up. And he's
Angel
got
Sing.
bagged copies of the 1/72 Halcyon long out of print drop ship. And I looked at that and I was like, oh, I've always loved that design and I always wanted that kit. And I never got it as a kid. I always wanted it as a kid and could never find it or afford it or whatever when it was sort of around. And I said, I already got enough stuff.
You
And it was
fool.
$20 US. And of course,
That's a good
now I'm just
prize.
like, oh, I wish I had just grabbed one. And to buy it now, it's kind of a hot collectible. It's $100 or whatever. And I'm like, sort of.
But hey,
I wish I
hey,
got
hey,
it.
we did find you the APC.
I got the APC. It's close enough. Little alien.
You know what? There's probably as many kits that I regret buying as not buying.
Yeah.
Arguably more.
That's my only story
Yeah.
of regret.
That's not bad.
yeah.
Yeah, I always look at it if it's meant to be like I'm really good the last few years. I will go into a show with a budget, and I have a gotta have list if I see it for a good deal, and if I see a subject, it's not bad, and
Yeah, you've been good.
for the most part it hasn't been bad. So yeah, it's worked out. But yeah, as you say, it's something you're going to think about. But that's more and more. I think about, am I going to build it?
That's a huge difference
Yeah.
from 20, 25 years ago
Yeah.
for me. When I go to a show now, honestly, I spend most of my money on things that I say are going to facilitate me finishing projects.
Tools. Yeah.
Tools, aftermarket, references, things like that.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I look at. Like, and it's funny how my interests change. Like, I've had a couple of Tamiya modern, an M1 and a Bradley in the stash, like basic Tamiya from probably 20 years ago. And I'm probably going to put them up soon because I'm more into the World War II stuff, the old Tamiya molds. Something
we do
it's
tend to shift
interesting
in
to
our-
shift around. Yeah,
Yes.
our
I was
interests,
saying
right? Yeah.
I've been doing a little bit of sci-fi lately. A little bout of that, and I'm really
that's
been
right.
enjoying that. So, yeah, it is. Okay, we're going to finish this up.
Yeah, it leads us to our last and final
Yeah, because we
question.
can, that question always gets to us rambling. So, what is currently on your bench?
A kit I bought a month ago.
Excellent.
Oddly enough.
All right.
That's a
An
good
impulse
segue.
buy. No, it's not entirely true. I have a problem of usually having too many things on my bench. But the thing I would sort of put forward now as the project du jour is Trumpeter's big 35th scale MAZ 543 Scud launcher.
Nice.
That's a vehicle that I've been in love with since, well, probably since I've ever seen like photographs of one. But I remember picking up the Dragon kit when it came out in 1991, right after Desert Storm. It was tough. So
That's how you really feel.
yeah, that's a kit I eventually got rid of, and then it's like, oh, you know. Then I picked up another copy of it really cheap, and then I started accumulating aftermarket for that. And then I had the misfortune of having a very, very close encounter with the real thing at an MVPA, a Military Vehicle Preservation Association show down in Huntsville, Alabama, and I spent like 3 days over, under, in, on.
So you mean someone actually had one of these as a private collector?
Well, or does it belong to the Army? It belongs to a private company that contracts it to the Army. So this thing is fully operational. Like they raised the missile launcher inside the convention building.
I certainly hope they don't have a Scud to go with that.
There's a missile on it. I assume it's inert, but this vehicle is fully operational because they actually, one of the things they use it for, it's out in Huntsville near the U.S. Army ballistic missile.
So familiarization.
Well, it's also sort of how does it show up on sensors? When the APU is running, when the missile's being fueled, when it's powered up, when it's moving.
So in other words, the Strike Eagles and the A-10s know what to look for.
Also, how special ops will know how to disarm, how to immobilize the thing.
Exactly.
So anyway, I mean, it was full. And the guy opened up everything, and it was like, it was. Thank goodness I had a digital camera.
Look what I bought at the auction, honey.
If only.
I have a feeling you might not last very long.
Oh, if only we had a yard that would hold that.
So did you?
Anyways, the thing was magnificent. So that was like, I photographed, and then it's like, okay, I must build one again. And then I finally saw the kit like a month ago at the AMPS show in Buffalo.
Was this a newer kit?
It came out in 2015.
No, which was this, the Dragon?
Trumpeter.
The Trumpeter, right.
Yeah.
So a much better kit probably than the early 90s.
It's like 1,300 pieces. The frame of the kit, like on the Dragon kit, that was 2 pieces. It was 130.
Wow.
On this thing.
Because
it was magnificent.
Anytime I think of something with 1,300, I'm thinking it's got to have tracks.
No, just wheels.
No, it doesn't. I know. Wow. So plus you're getting aftermarket.
I've a little bit, yeah. I need there's actually Trumpeter themselves do a set that's got all of the missile hosing. That's the one thing that's missing out of it.
Okay. Very nice.
And since I know where all that goes.
So you're actively working on that?
Yes.
So that'll be
sure. Yeah. No, I'm really looking forward to it, and I'm doing my best to make sure that it doesn't make that death march to the stash.
Yeah, and that's the secret. That's awesome. Yeah, we've been talking about some of the Russian mobile launchers and that because you can do so much kit bashing for futuristic vehicles. They just look like something you'll see in 1,000
years. Very science fiction looking.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing I'm just about finished is Trumpeter's 35th scale SA-4 launcher, which got these 2 huge missiles on it.
And that was club build?
Yeah, it was the club build, yeah.
Right.
I mean, that thing looks like it came out of a Jerry Anderson show.
Yeah, exactly.
It does have that sort of quality to it.
Yeah.
It's very...
and that's what I love. That's what I love about some of those for kit bashing.
For sure.
Exactly. So, wow, 1,300. Wow.
Awesome.
1,300
You got your work cut out for you.
You better buy some more glue.
I have several bottles. I'm good.
And is the airbrush booth big enough? That's the big thing.
Yes, I just got one, and it's
big enough.
It'll handle, I think, a 28-inch model.
Oh,
that's good.
Well, you know what? I should point out. I bought a compressor at one of our swap meets quite a few years ago, and it's still going strong. Still going, yes. Little small one, little yellow one.
Oh, I know the little badger. Yes.
Yeah, and it's still going strong. So yeah, that's pretty awesome. So, all right. Well, we really appreciate you having you on.
Thanks for coming down.
Thank you,
an
gentlemen.
absolute pleasure.
Fun.
And as I said, we will have links to both David's site and the Thatch Reef site again for people as well. And I think as well we'll put on the local AMPS club because there's always some interesting stuff there.
That's my home club.
That's your home club, and we actually host it on our website on the IPFS.
Yeah.
branded website. So yeah, we should try and get you guys to throw some more pictures up or something. We can do that.
We can do that.
Yes, we can do that. We can do that because pictures are always awesome. I'm always amazed at some of the work the armor guys do. It just totally blows me away. I have a long way to go, but that's fine.
Don't we all?
Well,
Yeah, we all do.
okay, so that's it for this time. So thank you again, Scott.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Well, there we go. As you can see, very good interview. Lots of interesting stuff, particularly from the world of publishing. And you mentioned before, Scott's was a past president of AMP, Southwestern Ontario.
Yes.
So yes.
Yep, he was. Yep.
Yep. So you're potentially filling some pretty big shoes there, my friend.
Absolutely. And actually, Scott's been an awesome reference for me and mentor, I suppose.
Yep.
So he's a great guy to follow up on.
Exactly. I actually, you know what? I mentioned it when we were doing the interview, pre-recording the interview. I actually bought at a swap meet a old air compressor he had for an airbrush, and the thing still works flawlessly. It's great. I bought it probably 8 or 9 years ago, and the thing just works really, really well. So yeah, no, very good resource. I've sometimes emailed him with the odd questioner saying, "Is this a pretty good kit?" Or especially on the armor side. So yeah, excellent,
very
excellent, good
knowledgeable,
resource.
and just a great modeler and a wonderful guy.
Exactly. Okay, moving on to our Talkin' Tools segment. These are basically tools we find indispensable or tools we heavily recommend or just a really cool way of doing it. So, back in the old days, when we were both young lads, for me it was way back, we would sometimes go and get our Airfix or Matchbox kit, run home, get our mom's scissors and start just snipping off sprues or start just ripping the parts off the sprues. No, not a good way to do it. You really need a set of proper sprue cutters, and if you're doing photo etch work, photo etch cutters. There's a lot of different manufacturers. So these are ones I've used, but again, there's other manufacturers that make very good ones as well. Company called Xeron. My wife uses these for her wire and beadwork as well, this company. So they make sprue cutters. So sprue cutters are basically, they look like little needle nose pliers, but they have a nice narrow cutting surface. So it allows you to, the cutting jaws get into the little tight areas, especially now that some of the sprues are designed these days. And it produces a very, very clean cut. So you don't get the whole ragged, bit of a sprue that you then have to spend 10 minutes sanding at risk of breaking your fragile part. So yeah, I've had a set for a couple of years, and they're absolutely awesome. They're not cheap, they'll vary in price, $20 and up usually, but it's one of these tools.
It's not bad.
It is worth the investment in time.
Yeah,
We've
that's
all
not
used,
a bad price.
Well, the thing I like too is unlike using an X-Acto knife in that, you don't have to worry about the thing going ping and, going off into nowhere.
Yeah.
Very
you
well
often get a
control.
weird cut when you try and
Exactly.
you put a lot of stress on the
Yep.
part and then the sprue branch. So yeah, the cutters are great.
Yeah. So, I've been using Xeron stuff for years. They're very, very good. The other thing they make is a they call it a photo etch scissors, but it's essentially cutters as well. Similar
Cool.
look. And these things, when I first heard about photo etch, I'm thinking, come on, it can't be that much difference. And it is.
It is.
These things have, I'm not sure how, but it's a different sort of material, but it's a very thin, ultra sharp, ultra thin, ultra strong, and it allows you to easily cut the PE off the frets.
Very cool.
It doesn't bend it, doesn't pinch it, doesn't twist it. I actually have, Tamiya actually also makes photo etch scissors, and I have both because they both find for different uses, sometimes getting in different parts. But these things are just amazing. But they are very, very sharp. Now, the one thing is you only use these things on photo etch. Do not use them on plastic. If you do that, you will, believe it or not, you'll dull the blade and screw up the alignment in no time. So again, I bought these about 2 or 3 years ago at a store in St. Thomas. I think it was a train store. And again, just, after you've done this, because I used to do the razor blade or different things.
That's what I do.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to upgrade
if you
now.
do a lot of photo etch, it's worth the money. Just photo etch for me is a pain in the ass anyway, particularly 70
You might as well make it
scale.
as easy as possible on
Exactly.
yourself, right? Have
and
the tool.
and that's what I've said before. If it makes my life easier and a little bit, less I'm swearing at it, then it's a good thing. And again, well worth the investment. So
Right on.
I can really recommend both of these tools. And again, you can get them all over the place. Most hobby shops sell Xeron Xuron scissors and stuff like that. So
Very common brand around.
Yeah, I've put links. They actually make a couple of the sprue cutters. I think they've got a narrow set too. I just use the standard. So I've basically put in a lot of the model railway guys. They'll use the track cutters, like your dad. He probably has heard of these for the track cutting. They make different ones, stuff for the beaters. They make memory wire, hard wire cutters, all sorts of different things. Their site's, again, another dangerous site. A metalsmith's toolkit. I'll never use it, but it looks cool.
Yeah, a lot of cool tools.
Yeah, that sort of thing.
That's great.
Yeah, so definitely check those out. I've put on 2 links to the 2 I use. Very well recommended products. Okay, what's on the bench? Well, I'm pleased to report my Battlestar Pegasus is done.
Excellent.
Done. I put a brief update on my personal website, blackfire.ca. Excellent kit, went together really well. I didn't do as much weathering. I did take some pictures with Galactica, so you can see the size difference. It's quite larger than Galactica. People don't realize.
I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, didn't do as much weathering. I think I may have also thrown a link on the on our Facebook page, but if not, I'll put one in. Weathering was very good, very subtle. The only thing I would have changed is the decal for the ship name. I should have just painted the ship name just carefully, because even with cutting some of the carrier film, I did have to apply a little bit of satin coat to reduce the glare in between. But other than that, again, another great Mobius kit. Works really, really well. Good. So what I did was, and again, regular participants of the Facebook page knows I had 3 kits I threw out there. And I said, which one should I build, folks? And most people wanted me to build, well, it was a narrow. It was almost a 3-way tie. It was the Edouard 72nd scale Spitfire Mark 9C, the late version. They released this kit about 2 years ago to a lot of fanfare. Absolute beautiful jewel of a kit. So again, I got the profile pack, which has the masks, has the very tiny photo etch. And let me tell you, I think my eyesight's at a point where the tiny 72nd scale photo etch, no go.
That's it, eh? Wow.
Yeah, I actually, did a build update. I put a little, it's not really a throttle quadrant, but something on, put it on, took like about half an hour to get it in place. And the next morning when I was getting ready to prime it, I accidentally wiped the thing off. It's so tiny. And, even with my magnifier set to 4 and that, again, don't get me wrong, Edouard's got some beautiful stuff. And if you've got the patience and that, it comes up really, really well. I'm still going to put some in, but I'm going to be also reasonable. Stuff that's in the cockpit, if I'm not going to, I haven't decided I'm going to have it open or closed yet. I won't need all the photo etch. So I'm just, being reasonable. So
use it where it's going to have impact.
Or at least
see
it's enjoyable. It's enjoyable. So so I've got it. I've got the seats and everything painted, the interior green and the side panels. So the next step will be to do some of the additional, painting of the oxygen tanks, the seat cushions, stuff like that, and then give it a wash and a weather, and then it'll be ready to button up. So awesome. That's for me. How about you?
So you've been very productive, Stu. I like it. Yeah, I've been just cranking away on my M577 A1 Aliens
awesome.
APC. I've made a few changes, so it can't be it won't be the movie version.
Awesome.
But I just had to do a few things. I had to cut a hatch in the top too.
Right.
I made this windscreen.
Yep.
And I had the lid sort of buttoned on top of the frame, and then I was trying to blow dust off, and then I blew the window back inside. So I had to cut it open. I thought, you know what? This kind of makes sense that there'd be a hatch here and a few other things that it's going to be a different one than one we see.
Right. I remember you were. When we had Scott over at your place for the interview, you were showing us.
I showed you that.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
So there you go, creative problem solving, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And I did a quick little video about that. I was using my sanding blocks to help make like a replacement hatch piece, and I was showing that a little bit how you can use them. So I've been just basically it's just not a great kit, and for sharpness and details, really soft details. So I've been replacing a lot of them and painting it, really getting close to painting the whole thing, and then I can't wait to weather it. I'm so close.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. You can use some of those AK weathering pencils I lent you.
Yes, I am going to try and do a little. I'm going to test them all out. I'm going to do a little write up on them.
Cool.
and take a lot of pictures of that to put up for listeners and to see how they work. And then I've got some other pigments I want to try out and some dust and all that stuff. And
Awesome.
and I did start the Moosaroo Cup. The boys that on the bench were ribbing me a little bit, saying
They
they haven't
were.
heard anything from our side.
Yeah. So that was nice, but they did give you a nice set of links for colors.
Yes, they did. Yeah, I did ask for that because I'm not too picky. I think I'm gonna maybe do the candy apple red.
Oh, that'll be nice.
Yeah. So it came out. It was released, I guess, officially in '68 with like 5 or 6 colors.
Right.
And quite interesting. And anyway, so I did. I took all the parts out. I always clean my parts, so I cleaned them down, and then I stripped the chrome.
Okay.
And I like to use like oven cleaner. So
All
like
right.
Mr. I think Off is one of them, and another
Yeah.
one, Mr.
Yeah.
Muscle, worked really well for me.
Okay.
And it just takes the. So I'm going to paint the chrome with Alclad, or
All
you
right.
could do it with Tamiya paint or whatever your favorite culprit. But so I went through the box, and there's no windscreen.
Oh,
It was sort of a last minute rush.
it was.
purchase.
Yeah. Well, that's fine. All right. Well, there's possibilities there.
So there's different. I already started brainstorming, like using. I have like this clear acetate. I think
Yeah,
I might
yeah.
try to fashion my own windscreen. I
Right,
think could work
right.
well. And I did actually. So Round 2
Mm-hmm.
is the company that is putting out these models from AMT.
Right.
So I actually did contact them, just quick email, looked up their site and said, "Oh, I'm missing a part. Can I order up a replacement?" So they actually have a great system, because I guess once in a while when you're doing production on these, you can get a missing part or
Yeah, it
missing
happens. It
decal
happens.
sheet.
Yeah.
And they were great. They responded back saying that if you have a receipt for your kit, like you went to the shop and
Yeah.
it's missing a bit,
Yeah.
they'll send you a free part, free shipping.
Oh dear.
And if you got it a second hand, like my kit, for
Mhm.
example, it's not their fault. Probably was there originally.
Yep.
They will send out parts. You just have to get the serial number for the kit so they can match the part.
Oh, okay.
And they have like a nominal fee. I think to get one part shipped out was like $6
Right. Okay.
and for shipping, and then like 2 parts was 10 or something like that. So
Interesting.
very reasonable.
Okay. That's
And
fair.
Round 2, I think we're gonna have to have a chat with those.
Yep.
those
They're doing a
fellas
lot
at
of
some
they're doing a
point,
lot
too.
of cool things. So yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
So I would like to ask the On the Bench boys that maybe their next topic should be building cars, so I can get a bit of a primer.
So there you
I
go.
haven't,
That'd
I
be an idea.
haven't built one since 1985.
So yeah, there's an idea. So yeah, okay. So there we go, lads. There's an interesting idea for your next topic. So you know,
Yeah.
help a lowly Canadian boy out.
Yes, please do.
Exactly. So okay, cool stuff. I also wanted to mention you were showing Scott when we were there your UN, your little APC you've been slowly.
Yes.
Yeah, just
Oh,
briefly
man.
talk about that a little bit, because again, that's a sweet looking kit. You got to get some more pictures of that up.
Yeah, definitely. I got to come back to the one. It's so close. I'm kind of a one-track minded builder. I can't
Yeah,
do
I know.
multiple. Very
I'm the
tricky
same.
for me.
I'm
So
the same.
I've been very disciplined at just doing one thing
Yeah, yeah.
until it's done. But I have some figures that I wanted to do a little
Mm-hmm.
diorama. I have a great idea, finally,
Mhm.
and I was trying to work on the figures. They were a bit rough, so they're taking a bit of time. And then I had a few problems with the headlamps,
Right.
and the main problem is I lost one of them.
Yes.
So I found a donor kit at the show we were
We
at.
did. Yes.
So yeah, an old Tamiya M113 kit
yeah.
that has the same kind of like US issue tail lights.
Right.
So they're going to be I'll use those.
Right.
And I even weathered it, and I had a bit more weathering to do, which is kind of the fun stuff. And it's so close to being done.
It looks really nice. Again, you got to get some
Yeah,
pictures now. You're eventually going to set up a gallery on your Goodman Models
Yes.
website, so we're going to get that set up, and we can put some of these pictures up. So
Yeah,
we can do that. So very
that
good,
is coming.
very good. Okay, you supplied all the sites and tips this week.
Yes, yeah. I've been trying to work away. I've been working on getting some sanding blocks ready, in stock for GoodmanModels.com, and I've been working on the Aliens card. I've been trying to get to the Moosaroo Cup and get it prepped, and the place is just a mess. But I've been listening, sort of half watching, listening to some cool I guess, sort of biography, documentary style stuff. That's just been really neat. And a couple that stood out, these are from YouTube, was the story of Eric Winkle Brown. And he was a famed English test pilot.
Yes.
And he did a lot of really cool stuff with, he was in World War II. He started before that flying. He flew for years and years, and he flew in so many different planes. He was involved with some of the captured post-war Nazi planes, like jets, early jets, like the Comet, and he flew the Comet. And I think he went all the way up to the 60s. I know he was flying in the Buccaneer that we were mentioning earlier.
Yep.
Really interesting guy, and it was a really great sort of 1 hour or so documentary about his career. And he lived up to be 97.
Yeah,
I think he passed away recently.
He's basically in England. He's kind of the equivalent that the Americans have Chuck Yeager. He's the equivalent. So he was also the most decorated pilot in the history of the Royal Navy, and he flew actually 487 different types, more than anyone else in history. He's got the world record for that.
And he also held a record for most carrier landings, and it was something over
2,407.
Yes.
Takeoffs and 2,271 landings. Now, astute listeners will go, well, how come that doesn't follow the normal rule of aviation, that takeoff and landing should be equal? Well, sometimes he takes off from the carrier and lands at a land base, kids.
Yeah,
or vice
versa. I know
he
did have one accident.
Yes,
and he walked away from it, and he sort of he mentions, this is quite interesting, he credits his short stature. So he's of my ilk, little small guy, that he didn't break his legs because he didn't crash in. But he also said he was very careful about pre-flight, routines and preparation. That's why he didn't crash very often. But that was a great show. It was really interesting.
Yeah, it looks interesting. I'll have to check it out. Yeah. He's a very.
I guess on the aviation theme. We are both, Stuart and I are both huge Dam Busters fans and huge Lancaster fans.
Yep.
And we talk about it a lot, and I hope we keep talking about it because it's just a beautiful bird and what a great history.
Exactly.
There's a really neat documentary that you can watch for free on YouTube about what the Dam Busters did after Operation Chastise. So, of course, they weren't the Dam Busters, right? It's the number 617 squadron from the Royal Air Force. They were just known as the Dam Busters. But they had all kinds of crazy exploits and misadventures after the Dam Busters.
Well, these guys were considered the elite, and they would, get the special missions, basically.
Yes. Yeah. And so there's a really neat documents you can watch or listen to when you're working on your models, and not listening to On the Bench or the Scale Model podcast. And that is really quite fascinating stuff.
Right. Yeah, no, exactly. Really, some really interesting stuff. They involved with, the big tall boy and earthquake bombs, and after the Tirpitz, to help sink the battleship Tirpitz and stuff like that. So, quite a very unique, and they're still in operation today. They actually, transitioned recently to the first squadron in the RAF to transition to the F-35B Lightning.
Yeah, how cool is that?
Yep. Yeah, they were flying Tornadoes before that. So, very, very unique. Over the years, they've a whole bunch of different ones. So, pretty cool. So I'm gonna look forward to check that out. Okay, and we also have this Facebook page where we can find out about the latest shows.
Yeah, that's the Scale Modeling Enthusiast. So he's keeping up with all of the
North American
different shows that come in from Canada and the States. I'm not sure he really covers Europe or.
Nope, he just says North America. He's got a Mexican flag there too. So.
And that's our buddy Frank Blonsky, who is an excellent car modeler and a great guy. And so, if you want to find out what's happening in your area for this half of the world, that is the page to check out on Facebook. That is the page
to like and follow and all that good stuff. Exactly. Okay, we are just over an hour, and that doesn't include the interview with Scott. So, as usual, we have a long show. We'd like to say a double helping in the old Monty Python.
Jam-packed.
Jam-packed, minus the jam and peanut butter. So, as always, we want to give a shout-out. Again, we've mentioned it to our friends at On the Bench, the other awesome show that broadcasts during off weeks. Guys from Australia, they really do a good show. We're good buddies with them.
Sure do.
Yep. a lot of good fun with them. Check them out as well. In the meantime, don't forget to subscribe. Let us know if you have any comments. We love getting email, scalemodelpodcast@gmail.com. As I said, we record roughly bi-weekly, and it's available where all your favorite podcasts are found, including iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. We have a Facebook page. We have a Patreon page. We have a YouTube page. We're everywhere. Pretty well, right?
We sure are.
I think I should set up a Twitter page. I might do a Twitter page. There's a thought too. Anyway, so that's it. Any last words, El Presidente?
Oh, well, enjoy your model projects.
Exactly. So, for episode 23 of the Scale Model Podcast, my name is Stuart Clark.
And this is Anthony Goodman.
Thank you, and be well.